Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Racing Insiders podcast. I am your host, Kate Dillon from Crate Insider, sitting right next to Steve Hendren from Hendren Racing Engines. And welcome. If you're here live, drop in any comments or questions. There will be. There will be. I know. I should probably do one of those countdown timers.
You probably need to do like a 20-second delay before you do the intro, because you instantly start with the intro and nobody's here to listen to your intro.
But you know who is here to listen to the intro is the people who listen afterwards.
Well,
and then also this ends up being kind of like a little bit of mush time for the people who are going to join live.
Yeah.
They don't really care to hear the intro. But you know who does is maybe our people who listen to the podcast.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. So then that way they don't feel like they're missing anything if they join in live. Because truthfully, there is a delay on our broadcast.
Yeah.
We're probably at about a 15-second delay, 10, 15 seconds.
I listen to a lot of gun-related podcasts YouTube type style podcasts.
Right.
And one of the things they always do is about a 20 to 30 second delay, because a lot of people don't even get notifications that it's started.
Well,
at least that long.
Well, I'll tell you one
of course, it is gun related, so there may be a deal there, but.
Well, could be. But I have to tell you that one of my pet peeves in the world is when people would go live, they're they maybe announce during the day, hey, I'm going to go live at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Doesn't really matter. And I'm excited. And I think, okay, great. I'm going to go watch this person live. Mm-hmm. And then for the first 8 minutes, all you hear from them is they're just looking at the camera.
Are we live yet? Are we there?
No,
are we on?
No, it's even worse. They're like, well, let's just sit here and wait for some more people to get here.
Right. Yeah, that's just annoying.
And shit. What that isn't that telling me that I'm not very important if I'm somebody that's already there?
It is.
So I don't do that. I just start going.
I've seen that before as well.
So I find that annoying. So that's why I go ahead and just get started and then
there's a couple
get it going.
There's a couple of gun tubers that do that same thing. So,
okay. Yeah.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah, good deal. All right. I see some folks are here. I see Christopher is here, and he says,
we're going to wait for more people to get here.
No, we are not. I just want to appreciate everybody who is here and everyone who listens, on the replay, and for anybody who is listening on the replay, maybe you're catching the podcast or the YouTube channel or Facebook, whichever. I do just want to shout out that we go live 8 p.m. Eastern on Mondays, and we do that on both Facebook and YouTube. So any of you who are here live, obviously you already know that, but
right.
For anybody who's listening on the replay, you're welcome to join us, and we take all kinds of questions. But I can't wait to read this.
And talk about stupid shit sometimes.
Well, we talk about current events, and especially as our viewpoint.
How it affects the racing industry, stuff.
Absolutely.
Like that. Yeah.
Or just how it affects all of us. Well, as you know, I don't know if you knew this. I wouldn't have known it. But did you know the Oscars were last night? So now I can put Christopher Mayer's talk on the screen. He says, Will Smith's wife is in my DMs. Wow. I don't know what to think about all this quite yet.
Her bald head.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Apparently that was a joke that was over the top for.
Well, so here's the deal. Do you know the deal on this?
I do.
Okay.
I've read everything.
Okay. I mean, she has a disease, and so that's why she's bald. So it's kind of like.
But I mean, kudos to Chris Rock for standing there with his hands behind his back and not kicking Will Smith in the nuts after he got smacked. So.
Well, I mean, have you ever had somebody come up to you and just hit you?
Oh, God, probably years ago,
where you
high school age or something like that, maybe.
Well, actually, there was this time. I don't know if I've ever told you this story. Have I told you about the time I was in Detroit?
Yeah, I think you did.
I don't know. I'm gonna tell everybody else now. So, back in the day, I was a traveling salesman. That really is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just waiting for, we'd kind of have our whole little group of salespeople. I was waiting for my ride, and I'm just chit-chatting with this dude that just, came up, and I've got my little sales bag, of, selling cleaner door to door. And this guy's talking to me, and I don't know, we're just jibber jabbering, whatever. And all of a sudden, this girl walks up, has got her keys in her hand, and she decks me right in the face.
Oh, shit.
right in the face. Like, I didn't do anything. And the guy goes cowering away like a little puppy dog. Apparently that it was his girlfriend. And I don't know, I guess he's not supposed to talk to women or something. So then, I mean, I got the license, but I mean, I just stood there. I was stunned. I mean, I was in too much of shock because there was no argument or anything. She just came up and decked me. Like, I mean, she'd be in like jail for the rest of her life. It was today.
You were in Detroit. I mean,
I was definitely in Detroit. Yeah, that was next level.
To be fair, you were
but you know, all I can say is like I can relate to the being so shocked that somebody would just come up and hit you like out of nowhere.
Right.
You wouldn't have expected that, and it's not like Will Smith is Nick, what's his name, the boxer guy, always looks pretty haggard. I don't know. I mean, one of these guys that definitely looks pretty sketchy and that is known for being violent, kind of thing.
Okay.
Anyway, doctor guy, whatever.
Right.
All right. And let's see if we have any more comments on that.
But it is the Oscars, and it's all fake bullshit anyway. So,
well,
I'm not so sure it's not a stage deal. I'll just put it that way.
I mean, I have to agree with you on that
because I mean, it was a bitch slap, not a punch to the freaking face.
Right.
So,
and I mean, other than that,
I can stand there and take a bitch slap.
Well, the thing is apparently the big winners. I just saw the headline today is that the most nominations of these nominations, not about wins, but Netflix. So I mean, like the whole traditional model of the movie studios is completely different than it was. And honestly, the Oscars would have come and gone without even a notice if it hadn't been.
Well, of course, they had shit ratings again because all they do is stand up there and preach a bunch of liberal bullshit. So,
well, I don't know. I mean, but I think if you were to look at how many people have watched and reacted to the Will Smith thing,
well, they had to
we're talking about it.
They had to do something to boost the ratings.
Yeah. All right, we've got some more folks here. I see Dave is here saying hi, racing friends. William Glass is here saying hello, and our friend Stu from Australia. Good day, mates. How's it hanging?
Yep.
To
the left.
Just straight down. I don't think this gravity thing is a bitch. I see Roy is here from Oregon, and with his podcast, definitely check out Roy and the work that he does.
Yep.
He does some great work. And Joe is here, and Chris has a question for us.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "How much preload on a 602 valve, and what's the best timing on a timing? Is it 34?"
So yeah, 602s. I always recommend 3/4 of a turn preload as far as like adjusting the valves. So from 0, you'll go 3/4 of a turn. Normally we'll back up about 1/8 on that, tighten the center adjuster, come back up, and that tightens it down. So you actually had a question last week that somebody asked what the torque was, and I'm sure somewhere there's a torque number, but no, it's by feel basically.
Well, and we actually do have a video on that. It's one of our very first videos we ever came out with back in 2015. But
yeah, 3/4 of a turn preload.
Mm-hmm. And
and that's the same on a 604 as well.
Right. And of course we show that with a 604. I think we call it how to set valve lash, or how to adjust springs, something like that. And we've got a visual for it.
And as far as timing goes, I mean, it's going to be fuel variant, but 34 degrees is always safe no matter what fuel you're using. Mm-hmm. And do not go above that unless you have access to like a engine dyno or a chassis dyno.
Yeah, you don't want to get
it's just always safe. So I mean, you can go 34 degrees all day long.
Yeah. All right, some more comments about the Oscars. Mark says, "Stupid shit is good shit." LOL. Agree.
Ghetto shit is what it ended up being. But.
Well, and Rose is like alopecia. So yeah, I mean, I knew that, and I guess Steve knows that too. And for anybody who doesn't know, Jada Pinkett Smith has alopecia, which causes her hair to fall out, and she's been open about that. So
yeah, and that's why the joke was made.
Well, I think being open about something doesn't necessarily mean it's ready to. I don't know if you're ready to be laughed about.
She tweeted about it, this whole big long freaking book, and talked about how she's going to own it and she's going to take it like it's a joke and blah blah blah, which is why the joke was made.
Oh, interesting. Okay, gotcha. All right. So here's a question. James asks, ordered springs for my 602 from Crate Insider. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me how to determine if they need to be changed using a spring checker on the engine, not the bench tester? Is there a certain number I'm looking to be above or below?
No, there's not. And I'll tell you why. It's because if you're using an on-the-car tester, Number one, they all vary. I mean, you can buy the best of the best, which the LSM tester to me is probably one of the best out there. But I'm going to pull that thing a different way than you pull it. And then Kate's going to pull that tester a different way than I pull it and you pull it. So you're going to get 3 different results. So what I always recommend to my customers is one person does it every week. So when you put a brand new set of springs on, you get a reading, you write down in your little notebook on what the reading is when they're brand new on the car. And then the same person does it every week and pulls that tester. And once you lose about 5 to 8 pounds on seat pressure, it's probably time to like look at changing them.
Right. Because really what you're trying to do.
And honestly, that equates to if you're at the maximum RPM limit of the 604, which in my opinion is 6,400. And if you're turning that all day long, all the time, you're going to be changing those springs about every 3 to 5 races.
A 602. It's 6,400 on a
correct
602.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and you've mentioned before that with the valve spring pressure tester, you want to pull it back until you just feel it
break the seat. Yeah.
Right. And your version of when it breaks the seat,
but it's going to be different than mine, and your
right,
feeling's going to be different.
We're just going to feel it different.
Correct.
It's not that there's anything wrong with the tool. So yeah, you've
so
got the
I
valve spring
mean,
pressure
like
tester.
anything else. I mean, the person that's going to do it every week needs to practice with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it might take you quite a while to just figure out what that feel is right when it breaks the seat. But
Well, because you're also turning the engine each time too.
correct. And I mean, speaking of that, on that note, anytime anybody's in tech, so like if you're in a tech situation, I've actually had people thrown out because I recommend the 3/4 turn preload. So when they're doing that, it actually gives a false reading on the checker
Okay.
sometimes. So like if you're in tech, per the rules, I think it's a 1/4 turn preload. So you should be able to back that off to a quarter turn.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a rule.
Well, it's in the GM performance book.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
it'll give a false reading is what I'm getting at.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Glenwood Motorsports. Good afternoon from Marion, North Carolina,
Mhm.
which is, by the way, just right down the road from us.
Like
It's
literally
20
15
minutes. Yeah. And who would y'all recommend to rebuild a set of AFCO shocks? Honestly, I mean, you're looking at AFCO.
Ben Baker.
Yep, that's exactly who I was going to go with for sure. So, if you want to send me a message, I can get you Ben's information and get you guys connected.
Absolutely.
Ben's brilliant.
Yeah, Ben's freaking
Love Ben.
badass, man.
Yeah, he's so well-rounded and so knowledgeable.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's Ben Baker from AFCO.
Yes.
So
yeah, he travels all over the country and
he's in the know everywhere. And,
he's really
and he doesn't
elevated.
only do AFCOs he does other shocks as well. So.
Right. And so he can really recommend some good solutions there.
And if he has no time to do it because he's so busy or whatever, he can at least give you a really good recommendation on who to go with.
I would agree. All right. Brian has a question. 602 on asphalt with a 6,400 RPM chip. Is it wasting power to be on the limiter before the corners? A 1/4 to a 3/8 mile tracks?
Yes and no. So I think on a 1/4 mile track, if it's a stop and go type of 1/4 mile, and even on a 3/8, if it's stop and go, in other words, you're shut down in the damn corners. You got to stick a bunch of gear to that thing to get it off the corner. Then no, it's not. I think you're better off with the gear to get off the corner because you're going to pass more people coming off the corner than you are getting in the corner. So no, I would be happy hitting the chip 100 feet before the corner, but able to pass 2 guys because I got more gear. Now, if you look at like a 1/2 mile track or something like that, I've seen scenarios, I've witnessed it firsthand, actually, like places like Pittsburgh, where people have, and this is on dirt, but they're in the chip the entire way around the track. And to me, that makes no sense. So I would certainly, there are certain scenarios. I mean, if it's a momentum style track, in other words, you're just pretty much not lifting around the place, then no, you don't want to be in the chip at all. But if it's stop and go, then yeah, I don't think it's hurting you whatsoever, especially on asphalt, because I mean it's slowing you down getting in the corner.
Now, would that be the same advice if you were on dirt as well?
Yeah, honestly, it would be. Yeah.
Right. And I know you've raced a lot more dirt, obviously, than asphalt, but you've
I've
given
raced
your
asphalt
hand.
a few times, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've got customers obviously
And
racing asphalt.
well, that was going to be my other comment is you have lots of customers that race on asphalt.
Exactly.
For sure. Great. Any questions you guys have, feel free to drop them into the comments. I know another request I had was if you could talk a bit about distributors and locking them out, kind of the difference between a not locked out versus a locked out, how to lock them out, and why you lock them out, like the whole lockout thing.
Well, I mean, it depends on the distributor, obviously, but like one of the main things, like if it's a dirt car, do not have an advanced curb in that thing. I mean, it needs to be locked out no matter what.
Well, what is an advanced curve? I mean, let's go to the very, very basics.
The very, very basics. You got the, now I'm going to like use my hands here.
That's fine.
So
and I will describe your hands.
So you got the distributor, you got weights with springs attached to them. I mean, I'm dumbing this down, but you got weights with springs attached to them. So, you know, if you're at, let's say, if you're got the timing light on a engine at 1,000 RPM, you might have 15 degrees of timing. But if you wind it up to, let's say, 4,000, then those springs and those weights swing out and it advances the timing to where like you got a total timing of, let's say, 34 degrees. Okay. But at 1,000 RPM or 1,500 RPM, you might have like 15 or 20 degrees.
Okay.
Right.
So is this kind of like the carnival ride with the swings that are swinging around?
It's the same principle. I mean, it's just, it's
like centrifugal force.
Centrifugal force, exactly. So, which is really old school technology, but I mean, that's what we have to deal with what we're racing with here. But at any rate, so yeah, any dirt car, you absolutely need to have that distributor locked out if per your rules it's legal. There are some series where it's not.
Well, locking it out though. So that was the advanced curve piece, but we don't want to have
locked out means like if you're timing it at 1,000 RPM, it's at 32 or 34 degrees, whatever.
Okay.
And then if it's at 4,000, it's at 32 or 34 degrees.
Great.
Right.
Great.
So that's what I recommend on dirt. Asphalt can be a little bit different scenario because a lot of times people use the advanced curve to not build the torque so instantly to where you're not blowing the tires off the car as you're getting off the corner.
Great. And then with locking them out, there's a few kits out there where you can
like the HEI stuff, like you sell one.
Yeah, I'm out of them right now, but I
sell one. Like you sell a kit that actually phases the distributor correctly and it locks it out and all that stuff. That's a great kit to use.
For HEIs. And then I think MSD has one for for some of their other ones.
But then you can also buy them locked out.
Yeah, and that's what that's what we sell the most of.
Or unlocked, whatever. I mean, there's what is the 85505?
Yeah, the 85505 is the black version, and then 85501.
But it's unlocked. It's unlocked.
Oh, it is, but it
from
has
the factory. If that's
is it the one that's black?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the 855.
Well, I think it's the 85501 then. We'll have to take a look at them.
I don't remember the part numbers off the top of my head, but it's like one of the two of those. Like it comes with an advanced curve in it.
Okay.
But then you can also take all that out and pop the gear off, lift the shaft up, swap it around, and it'll lock out itself.
Does it have instructions in the box?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it says, and both of those it actually says something about the lockout thing.
Yeah.
But then there's the 85551, which is a little bit different. It's a red one. And,
yeah. And you got the 85555, and there's several of them out there. But I mean, you'd have to look it up. But
right, no. I mean, it'd be great to do that. All right. So we got a new question here. And Rosa asks, how often should you bleed brakes and clutch?
Okay, that's a really good question. And reason being is because you should do it quite often.
Really?
Yes. Not necessarily that. I mean, the brakes, like if you go to your Race Logic chassis school, both the late model version and the street stock version that you did this year, what you're going to find is, so brake fluid attracts moisture. Moisture lowers the boiling point of the brake fluid. And actually, Ben Baker, who we just spoke about earlier, has a really good presentation on brake fluid when it comes to this stuff.
So good.
And he goes really in depth as far as, you know, how often you should do this.
And common mistakes, how to bench bleed brakes. Because apparently in master cylinders, there's all kinds of little cavities in there.
But no, I mean, so
how often?
Going off of that, if I remember correctly, what his recommendation was, I think like once every month.
Okay.
You should, you know, bleed the brakes, put fresh fluid in there and all that stuff.
And when it comes,
because especially when you're racing in humid environments. So if you're, let's say Florida up to Pennsylvania on this side of the country, you probably need to be bleeding or, you know, changing that fluid every 3-4 races, or which would equate to once a month. If you're in Arizona, not so much.
Well, and with that, you definitely want to be using a racing brake fluid.
Correct.
Because I mean, that's why there's an AFCO brake fluid that I have on my shelf very specifically, because it has a hot boiling point that is meant for racing brakes.
And it's also meant to have water contamination in it. Correct.
It's already meant, it's meant to be able to do that.
Correct.
And then as far as clutches, it's interesting.
I mean, the clutch is going to work or it's not. It's not something that's hot. Your brakes get hot. So in other words, at the caliper, your brakes are heating up. And if you've got water in the system, it's going to be boiling that water at the caliper. And then you get a spongy pedal. You get all sorts of problems that you don't need to have when you're racing.
Well, but I do have to say, I've had customers call. I had a dad call me one day, and his son races and goes through clutches like candy, right? But ever since he switched over to the Daytona 1 transmission fluid, the dirt track trans fluid, he's not rolling.
So you're talking about you're talking about a bird or a brand or something like that.
Probably like a Midwestern guy,
like
the modified guys,
right?
And not going through clutches every 5 minutes like he was. The kid had been through like 3 clutches the season before,
right? Well,
this one he hadn't been through.
What this is referring to is the brake fluid that you use going from the master cylinder to the transmission that engages the clutch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
Yeah, that's
totally
different.
I hear clutch, I hear transmission.
Right.
You know,
yeah, totally different.
I just sell the stuff. I don't put it together.
Right. But brake fluid's cheap, so use it.
Yeah. And Scott's here. He says hi from California.
Yep.
Hello. And Dave has a follow-up. He says, what do you think about the Willwood 570?
Gosh, I used that for years in my own car, and I never had a problem with it.
Is that the brake fluid?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I used it for forever.
Well, I mean, in Willwoods, I mean, those are the master cylinders. I mean, one thing I learned is that with the cost of master cylinders, just the way you have to think about them is that this is a consumable piece. Every year, do yourself a favor.
That is another good point that Ben brought up.
Yeah, these are a $50, $60 part. And you could have expensive master cylinders that would last you a long time, but then nobody would want to spend the money to buy expensive master cylinders. So just know that, like,
it's
just
disposable.
to get ahead of it, make it a disposable part. I mean, I hate to be wasteful like that.
Don't run a 40 race season and then go back and try to run a second 40 race season the next year without replacing your master cylinders.
It's an inexpensive part in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
Yeah. So plan on doing that. So that was news to me,
right?
For sure.
And as is brake fluid. Brake fluid is cheap and disposable. So
agreed. And anytime we can have those maintenance things that are going to give us way more life. And I think the bigger thing is just not having the issues, not having the problems.
Right.
You don't want to be at the track and like you're just not having the response that you want, and you just don't want that.
I mean, everybody's, I assume, has bled brakes to where, you know, you poured fresh, clean, clear brake fluid in your master cylinder, and you go to bleed the brakes, and it's black, nasty, gummy looking shit that comes out the other end. Well, that's due to that brake fluid getting boiled, and you end up with spongy brakes and the whole 9 yards. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I also say, being an engine builder, I can relate to that. So change your fucking oil. I mean,
Cheapest insurance.
because I say go 4 races, don't go fucking 8.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. And David has a question. He says, 1.6 rockers make a big difference on the 604.
it's about 10 horsepower. So if you've got the option to do that, I would. I actually had a customer call me today from South Carolina area asphalt deal, and they're actually allowed to use either the 1.5 or the 1.6. So yeah, just going from 1.5s to 1.6s straight across the board, not even staggering them, you're looking at 10 horsepower.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to know. I like that. Yeah, it's always interesting to see the different rules in dirt versus asphalt.
Yeah, I mean, asphalt's a lot more lenient normally. I mean, they're a little more, I don't know, just they've got, because it's asphalt and they have so many fucking rules in asphalt, is ridiculous.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I guess the engine builders didn't get a hold of them, and or maybe they did. I don't know.
No, it's
hard to say.
It's just how it is.
No, it's just a different kind of a culture along with that.
Exactly.
For sure. Any other questions you guys have, feel free to drop them in. Happy to answer any of those. You're going to get another beer?
Totally am.
Okay. Okay. And Steve went to go to beer, so now we're going to talk about him. No, I'm kidding.
Wouldn't be the first time. That wouldn't be the last.
No, I mean, you're like right there. It's fine. You just set it in the counter.
All right.
It's fine. All right. Your beer's in the fridge. All right. Yeah, so I'm just waiting for him to get back now. And I don't see any questions. I see Jerry is here saying hi, Kate and Steve. So hello, Jerry. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. Anything else in the world?
And
here?
one day it might warm up, so we can actually move this operation back outside where we started.
Yeah, this is our pretend outside with our fake trees in the
Good God.
background. It's funny that you thought I painted this, and I did not. The trees, but that was really nice. I painted something similar.
Yeah.
One of the other apartments, but yeah. Oh, and Rosa. Oh, here we go. Rosa asked, "Why does Steve think that Iowa doesn't exist?" I don't know. It just started as a joke, right? I mean, it started as a joke, but
I mean, does it?
but it does. Yeah, because I grew up there. I'm real. Do I need to slap you across the face so you know that I'm real?
Yeah, you better.
No, I don't do that anymore.
Do I need to make fun of your bald head?
No.
Oh, wait, you don't have a bald head.
No, I do not.
No, because it doesn't. I mean, I was like flyover country.
Oh my gosh.
The ultimate flyover country. So
wow.
you don't. I mean, nobody even knows if it's. I mean, should it be a state?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like sausage? Do you like corn on the cob? I know you always cut it off, but do you like sausage and do you like corn
Those
on
are
the
some
cob?
pretty phallic questions there.
Well, they are, but that is all about some Iowa right there.
Right. Sausage and corn on the cob.
Yeah, pigs and corn.
Yeah.
And some soybeans too. So if you like those things, you better like Iowa.
I don't like soybeans.
Well, you know what? I'm sure that they're in probably 90% of every one of the other foods that you buy that is packaged.
I do like corn.
Yeah. Best sweet corn in the world.
But I can grow that in my own yard.
And then we laughed. No, not like Iowa corn. You can't.
Okay.
Oh, there's a huge difference. If you were to have Iowa corn,
It's like Idaho Spuds.
no, there's a sweetness to Iowa corn. I mean, amazing. Yeah, you just can't even imagine. If you've never had Iowa sweet corn,
I don't know.
A whole nother level.
They grow corn in Mexico. So
I'm just telling you that with that black dirt, way better racing most of the time and amazing.
The only reason I honestly do believe Iowa exists is because they do have some badass racetracks there.
Yeah, they really do. Yes. He just likes to make a joke.
Just not
He
very.
likes to rile people up.
Well, I mean, especially like Dave Hammond.
Oh, yeah. All
That's
right.
half the reason I said it doesn't exist.
I'm
'cause
sure.
we don't even know if Dave exists.
Dave exists. I know. He does exist. All right. Andy has a question. Hey, Steve and Kate. 604 IMCA modified. 1 inch open spacer or no spacer?
1 inch open. Absolutely, 1,000%.
Okay, because the only one they can run is either that Moroso phenolic.
Yeah,
or
they're
the
stuck with a
Speedway.
piece of shit. Man, hey Andy, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I mean, yeah, 1 inch open, 100%. We haven't tested that specifically, but I have tested, 4 holes versus no spacer, because like a lot of asphalt stuff out here has got, options for different spacer sizes or none and all that stuff. So yeah, you need 1 inch open.
Great. And Stu has a question. He says, hey, Steve, do you have a preference for pedal setups when it comes to floor mount or hanging pedals?
Yeah, absolutely. Hanging. I've always used hanging.
Is that just a preference or is any advantage?
Well, no, to me, it's, I guess, probably a preference. I mean, I don't know. I've tried them both. I mean, usually floor mount stuff you'll see in asphalt, but hanging stuff, primarily in dirt. Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it's hanging.
With the hanging, does that also make it a little bit more adjustable so that you've
got quite a bit of adjustment? Yes.
Whereas if you got on the floor, I mean, you really kind of have to tailor that to the racer and the seat and all of that. A little less room for error, would you say?
Yeah, probably.
Great.
I mean, you got to think you got. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at, let's see,
like a cross section.
I mean, if you're looking at like the hanging stuff, like your pedals are higher than generally your brake calipers. So, normally if you get like a error situation, it's going to be at the pedal, not at the caliper.
Mm-hmm.
Where like floor mount, it could be you got issues at the caliper rather than the pedal.
Gotcha. And Wayne is here from Florida. And my gosh, I forgot the most important part about Iowa.
What?
Bacon. Bacon.
Is Iowa bacon good?
I mean, pigs. I was saying sausage, but bacon.
I don't know this shit.
Do you like bacon?
I've never been to fucking Iowa. I have no idea. I don't even know where it's at.
Well, you go up to Pennsylvania and you turn left.
Okay.
And pretend you're going to California, but you stop halfway there.
Okay.
And there you are.
Yeah.
I-80.
I got you. It could be Nebraska too, but
well, Nebraska.
I do know Nebraska exists.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, okay. All right. And here's a question. Tyler says, hello, guys. Steve, have you built an IMCA 305 sprint motor?
No, I never have. No. And honestly, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. IMCA 305. I mean, there's IMCA.
Right.
And then there's 305 sprints. But I didn't know that those two existed in the same
I don't either. I'm
sentence.
not a big IMCA guy, so no, I'm sorry, I haven't.
Well, and you're out so far outside of the area of where IMCA tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not something that would be in our realm of.
Being in the east of the Mississippi makes a big difference.
I mean, when we were in California, we were doing IMCA stuff, but I mean, there was all that claimer bullshit and everything.
Well, that was also a long time ago.
Yeah, well, half a fucking life ago, actually.
That it was. All right. Now we have a carb question. James, a lot of times we struggle in carb questions.
Well, yeah, I'm not the carb expert. My brother is. But anyways,
we'll
see if
try.
We can answer it.
No, he says, carb question. Engine flutters at wide open throttle halfway down the straights. Floats are set correctly. Everything is fine and idle. Good throttle response, etc. Would the rear jets being too rich cause that issue? It's a 602 on a 600 CFM carburetor.
Okay, so what are we calling the floats being set correctly? That would be my first answer or first question. Where are they? What is the fuel pressure? What kind of fuel are you using?
Great. Okay. So we'll wait for those answers because that's going to make a big difference. All of those. I mean, every single one of those things is such a major factor. And, I guess you could speak to that a little bit. But like you said, I mean, how do you know when your floats are set?
A lot of times, I mean, before he answers the questions I just threw back, if you got a halfway down the straightaway problem, you got a fuel supply issue.
Oh.
Normally rather than a carburetor issue. But again, it's going to depend on the variables of what I just asked. Because it could be a carburetor thing as well. But yeah, any time that you've got something going on down the straightaway, when the car is straight, not rolled over, not rocked up, doing all that stuff, then yeah, you've got a fuel supply issue of some sort.
Well, I think that would be another question, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but would this be a good thing to ask as well about whether he has a bypass regulator?
I mean that could come into the equation at some point, but that's not first on my list of what I'm.
Okay. I mean, because
about.
it does with the bypass regulator, it would help you have a consistent fuel supply.
Well, that
Right.
and obviously a belt drive pump or something like that. But yeah, I mean my first thought process is going to be a fuel supply issue of some sort, but we'll see what he comes up with there as far as what I asked.
Okay, great. So he says that his front float is halfway up the sight glass. The rear is a tick higher. Yes, I have a regulator, and he's running 7 PSI with 93 octane.
Okay. So normally one of the common mistakes, especially if this is like a long straightaway type of racetrack, one of the common mistakes people make is the float's in the center of the sight glass. So what ends up happening a lot of times is, and especially, I mean, if you got a corner issue, especially, so in other words, it may be a fluttering issue of some sort going down the straightaway, but when you're in the corner and you get a dead stumble, a lot of times what people end up doing, they got that float level in the center of the sight glass, and at the end of the straightaway, the float's dropped all the way it can drop.
Okay.
So you end up, you're out of fuel.
Gotcha.
At the end of the straightaway. So you could be running out of fuel as you're going down the straightaway.
So what would be the fix to that, to adjust the floats?
Raise the floats up to the top of the sight glass.
Okay.
And then now this may be something you have to work with as far as like corner entry, because if the car's up, rocked over, you could be blowing over out of the back vent tube and then causing a rich stumble in the middle of the corner. So it's something you got to play with a little bit. But I mean, or what you can actually have going on is just an absolute fuel supply problem of some sort. I mean,
but all of that made really good sense to me, though, Steve. I mean, all of that really came together.
But what?
And he says, but he actually does say that the fuel pressure never fluctuates during the issues.
Okay, so if the fuel pressure never fluctuates, what kind of carburetor does it start with? 600. I know that.
Well, yeah, it was a I believe it was it's a 600 CFM.
Right. Yeah. But I mean,
right. But I know you want to know.
Did somebody build it? Is it a poly style, or is it a straight out of the box deal, or is it 600 billet? Is it?
Right. And I'm sure he'll post that here, because each of those would present, or maybe you've just had experience with that particular kind of carburetor.
It could be. Honestly, it could be one each everything. But
carburetors are like the biggest.
If we're going to try to identify it here in the next 10 minutes, I mean, we're probably pissing in the wind, but I'm going to give you some ideas that will probably help you.
Well, some things to try to check anyway.
Figure out what's going on.
It can't hurt. Because you guys have seen, lots of things. I know your brothers.
I mean, normally that 7 PSI is fine, especially if it's not fluctuating. So, I mean, that's a good thing, which is going to lead me to believe that you have probably a float level issue.
Yeah. So that'd be your number one thing or the Cliff Notes version is probably just try to raise the float bowl.
Yeah. And how big of a track is it? I mean, if we're talking a half-mile track.
It's a Holly 600. It's got the dual metering blocks, center hung float bowls, etc. Stock center section built by a local builder.
Yeah. Local builder might be half the problem. What size track are we talking about?
Okay. I don't know. We'll find out here in our 15-second delay. And I should have that. I should have a delay on this end so that I can beep you every time you swear.
Right.
So I'm sure he'll let us know here in just a second. But I know you've dealt with a bunch of those for sure. The Holly carbs. I mean, haven't you? Well,
not really, just because it's not something that's normally in our wheelhouse anymore.
Well, not anymore, because you do all the billet stuff.
Yeah, years ago,
yeah. You've seen a ton of that. Yep. And then we got another question up here we'll get to as soon as we get through this one here. So you just want to know what the size of the track is. Well, and how would that affect your answer?
Well, because of the straightaway length.
Okay. So
I mean, what's being described right now is you're running out of fuel.
Right. Yeah. He says 3/8 mile asphalt,
Mhm.
medium banked on the throttle a lot.
Yep. You're running out of fuel.
Okay.
Raise the foot level
Great. Great.
and see what that does. And I would be at the top of the site class.
Good. Good deal. No, that was a great conversation.
Yep.
So, all right. And back talking about pedals,
Mhm.
and let's see here. Oh gosh, we got all kinds of questions up here. All right. Oh, Rosa says, preach, Kate. She also said steak is also an Iowa thing too. Steak, it's what's for dinner. Bobby Amanda Miller here says, would changing the 602 valve springs to something around 120 pounds of seat pressure improve engine performance, and would it be okay on the camshaft?
It would not improve it. And I'll tell you why. It's because this is a hydraulic lifter engine. And what the common mistake people make is they go out and they buy these, high pressure valve springs, thinking that, hey, I'm going to increase horsepower. So what you actually end up doing is actually losing horsepower, because a hydraulic lifter engine, the more over the nose, meaning peak, the nose of the cam, lifter, peak valve lift, if you've got too much pressure, you're actually bleeding that lifter down and losing lift.
Gotcha.
So no,
because you're making it work harder.
You're
more pressure.
You're losing lift. So no, it will not.
Interesting.
I would recommend, like, if it's a scenario where you can run an aftermarket valve spring, then I would run an aftermarket valve spring. If it's legal, then I would run an aftermarket valve spring, but I would stick very close to stock pressure.
Good to know. All right, David has a question saying 604 quarter inch carb spacer or a 1 inch spacer for a 604.
1 inch.
Okay.
That's if you have those two choices.
But yeah, if you have those two choices, yeah. But I normally recommend a 5/8.
Mm-hmm.
So HVH makes a 5/8 spacer, which I've found to be the best of both worlds. So you lose no top end power over a 1 inch, but you pick up low end torque over everything else.
Good deal.
And 1/4 inch, not enough. 1/2 inch, not enough. To me, the 5/8 is the perfect.
I will tell you
it's like the compromise.
No, in my office, you know what we call that? We call that's the Goldilocks.
The Goldilocks.
So in my office, we have a couple of go-tos. Well, we have lots of phrases, but one is that's the Goldilocks principle. So it's not too much, not too little, and it's Goldilocks. The other one we use in our office is Price is Right rules. As close as you can get without going over.
Oh, there you go.
So is it Goldilocks rules or is it Price is Right rules? And those are things that really, if Tori or Curtis were on this call right now, they would definitely say yes.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, if we're talking, I'm talking like numbers here. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking winning or losing a race. So if you got a 1 inch spacer or a quarter, I'm not allowed to hang on the table.
No, because it messes with the microphone.
If you got a 1 inch spacer or a 1/4 inch spacer, the difference between winning and losing a race is probably not going to be that spacer.
Right. Yeah. But if you're
looking for everything that you can get, best compromise ever is going to be that 5/8 HVH.
Oh, now this is going to be an interesting question. I do have to say, Ken had a comment about the pedals. He says, to me, the floor mount has a different pedal feel.
Yeah. For sure.
But Jeremy has an interesting comment here. I got about halfway through it. He says, Steve, if torque is what we chase as crate dirt oval racers, then why do we chase horsepower instead of retarding the timing some and trying to make more torque? And I hope this question makes sense to you.
Because I have yet to see a scenario where we retard the timing and gain torque. I mean, if we're talking like 602, 604s, that's not been the case. And a lot of it's fuel related. So, E85, stuff like that. I mean, which is why we're chasing torque, is we're running those fuels. We're advancing the timing like tremendously.
I mean, is it a general rule that if you retard the timing though, that you would gain more horsepower?
No.
Is that that's not a thing? Okay.
No, I mean, if you look at some of the newer engines out there, like let's say, gosh, I don't know. Let's take my Dodge Charger.
Oh, I was going to say that yours or Alex's, where you guys can do all these little adjustments.
So
in the
yeah,
computer.
when you've got like perfect deal where you've got fuel injection and you've got everything and you can graph it out, then yeah, gaining horsepower top end is going to be, your retarding timing. But I mean, as far as like gaining torque on this application, no, I've not seen to where you're going to gain more torque by retarding the timing.
Very interesting.
Matter of fact, normally if you're running any of this stuff like too retarded timing, you're not only losing torque, but you're also gaining heat in the engine.
We don't want that.
No.
Heat is bad.
Right.
Yeah. Well, too much anyway. Again, Goldilocks principle. And Tori is here to agree with me because she says faux show. Because that's what she says.
Because that's evil assistant Tori.
That's amazing. It's amazing assistant Tori.
She's like rocking in here at the last minute going faux show.
Ken is here. He has another comment. He says, hey guys, I'm sure this has been asked before, but here we go. How much gain would you expect to see going from 98 octane race gas to E85 on a 602, both with David Smith carburetors?
From 98 race gas to E85 on a 602, like I've done it a bunch of David stuff, so I know what his stuff does. I would look to see probably at takeoff. So in other words, like on my chassis dyno at between 1,500 and 2,000 RPM, I would expect to see probably 35 foot-pounds of torque.
Now, I don't know.
Overall top end horsepower is probably going to be somewhat the same, but the low end torque is what you're going to pick up.
Now, I don't know if you guys measure this at all. Maybe you do. I mean, it should be able to be graphed, but I know one thing we've looked at before is the responsiveness.
So acceleration rate is what you're asking about.
Like, from first corner to the flag stand. Yeah. And, just like, how some of the, like CHP we've talked about for a long time where you slam the pedal and it's like, wow, now it's going to get started.
Anytime you produce torque, you increase acceleration.
Okay.
So one is tied to the other.
Okay.
So absolutely. I mean, you're going to probably see, again, at that RPM range, you're going to see that kind of an increase, which is what we want.
Right.
Because the more torque we can produce taking off, the more gear we can pull out of the car, and the more mile an hour we can gain.
Well, and so that's really going to be the biggest significant difference between the 85 and the 98 octane is just that responsiveness. The just absolute responsiveness to at least get you going.
It's torque.
Quicker.
Exactly.
Right. You call it torque. I'm calling it responsiveness, but it's get you going faster.
Right.
That's most important here. And and Don mentions that 5250, I believe, is where the torque and the horsepower always meet.
Yep. That is correct.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, Jeremy says, is the crankcase
because horsepower is torque times RPM divided by 5250.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, and people said that like math would never you never needed math, but I know you use a lot of math.
Good God.
I broke my calculator. My calculator just stopped working.
Math. I don't like the maths.
I love math.
I think math is racist.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm just repeating what I've heard on, the news media.
Well, I'll tell you this. There are people who do the maths and there are people who do not do the maths. But, I'm going to do the maths because the maths is what will propel my success into the future.
It usually determines whether I'm buying an Ultra or not buying an Ultra.
There you go.
The maths.
The maths. I know, because it's such a British thing to call it the maths. But my calculator just stopped working the other day.
Right.
And you have no idea. I didn't know how much
I do have an idea. I've had that happen.
Oh, well, I didn't know how much I used it.
Yeah.
Until I just go, okay, I'm going to,
right.
Yeah. So it definitely has
you ought to see me trying to draw a material profile for a CNC machine when I don't have a fucking calculator that works. So.
I'm just constantly figuring, I use math every single day. And it's not that I can't do long division and things. It's just, I do know how to do it. So therefore I end up.
Well, as somebody who failed geometry, in high school, like absolute fucking failed it.
Amazing
And
that
had
you're
to-
doing a CNC
And
machine.
had to teach myself how to do geometry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a challenge.
I'll bet. I'm surprised you didn't dig. You know why I like geometry?
I don't know why anybody likes geometry because it's a fucking horrible math.
No. Playing pool.
That's why I suck at pool.
Pool is all about geometry.
Yeah, I know.
And I loved playing pool.
Yeah, that's
It
why
was
I
a lot
suck-
of fun.
That's why I suck at pool and suck at geometry.
Okay.
Because
yeah,
I
that's
suck at
fair.
geometry, so I suck at pool.
Yeah.
Unless I'm really fucking drunk.
I mean, I'm not like a shark.
if I'm really drunk, I'm good at pool.
Well, you think you're good. Yeah.
Well, no, I win.
Oh, okay. All right. Is the key to make sure that
Against other equally bad players.
I was gonna
Not against anybody who actually knows how to play pool.
I mean, this sounds just like a race to the bottom to see who could be drunkest.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right. And as a follow-up, Jeremy says, just curious and had to ask because I've always heard retarding the timing makes more torque. So thanks for answering.
No,
that was a really great.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
no,
that was such a great discussion point. I'm so glad we got to talk about that.
And it won't. I mean, we can get into a long discussion on why it does or doesn't and blah blah blah, but
No, I mean
not today.
Yeah. And then a different Jeremy, but Jeremy has Crankcase evac system. Is it worth messing with on a 604?
It will improve some power. Yes, it will. I'm not a big fan of it if you're on dirt. And the reason being is because none of the seals in the entire engine are meant to pull a vacuum. So in other words, if you don't give a shit about your 604, then yes, run that. If you do care about it, in other words, if you're, not a millionaire and you can't buy freaking 5 604s every year, or, not even a millionaire, just whatever, 100,000aire, then no, I'm not a fan of it. And the reason being is because again, none of the seals in the entire engine are designed to pull a vacuum. And neither are the valve cover breathers or anything else. So if you're pulling a vacuum, all you're doing is sucking dirt in the engine. If it's an asphalt scenario, 1,000% run it.
Well, I think the other follow-up on that too was that would you also concede that it would also be depending on where you are in the country? Because on the East Coast here, where we can freshen them, we can rebuild them. There's, we don't have the same limitations as you have west of the Mississippi and IMCA country.
To me, it comes back to budget.
Well,
so what's your budget? Again, if you're willing to go, oh yeah, I'm rebuilding my motor every 15 races because you can, yeah, have at it. I mean, it's going to gain power. No doubt about it.
A lot of these goes to IMCA country and it doesn't seem to be a problem.
Right. Well, I mean, if that's the case out there.
But you've got different parameters for what you're running.
If you're a rich Iowa pig farmer, have at it. But I mean, to me, it's not worth it.
Okay.
But I'm also the guy that rebuilds them. So I try to make people make their engines live.
And so Tori, it reports she didn't just show up at the last minute. She's been here since Jada Smith. So
really?
That's from starting from the very beginning.
All right.
Very good place to start.
Tori, how's your Propecia working this
Just
week?
Stop it. And James says horsepower equals how hard you hit the wall. And torque is how much of the wall you take with you.
There you go.
I love that. And all right, next question. Don says, a smaller carb takes advantage of more timing. A bigger carb can make do with less timing, jet accordingly. So
I'm sorry, what?
A smaller carburetor takes advantage of more timing. A bigger carb can make do with less timing. So I guess small carb, big timing, bigger carb, small timing.
I'm sorry, man. I do not understand that one bit.
Yeah, I don't think you got that. We don't have any data that supports that.
That makes, honestly, to me, no sense.
Okay. We'd have to test that in order to figure out. Well, and it's interesting. Well,
I mean, most everything to do with ignition timing nowadays, if we're talking 602s and 604s, are going to be fuel related.
Yeah.
Not carburetor size.
But I have seen the trend where, when I think back in like 2013, 2014, is we had some 750s. Then it was 650s, right. CFMs. And now we're kind of squeezing into the 600 CFMs.
Well, I mean, back in those days, we weren't running E85 and stuff either.
No, we weren't.
So we were running 750s on CHP and running 34 degrees.
Right.
Anything over that, you were losing power.
Right.
So, I mean, that is actually counterintuitive to what was just said there.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was just talking about the trend that we've really seen in the last, 7-8 years here.
I mean, we're going smaller and smaller and smaller on shit now.
Yeah. And not really changing the timing.
Well, we're gaining airflow, or let's say velocity on what we're doing now.
Well, I've got a few ways of doing that. You've got the carburetor and the air filter base. We're finding these different pieces to be able to deliver the air fuel
looking
ratio.
for every last little bit for the customer.
Oh, and Don was referring to 4 barrels versus 2 barrels.
Well, I'm still referring to 4 barrels.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I mean, that makes no sense.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, my goodness, we are almost at the hour. Did you have any thoughts that you wanted to share for the week?
Not really.
I'm just gonna say I'm grateful right now that we're not at war yet. So I'm gonna be grateful every day.
There's that.
I'm gonna be grateful every single day
Even though
that we are not in World War III.
Even though our stupid freaking president tried to get us into it this last
Every
week
day.
with his shit show of a performance in Europe.
Oh, I know. I was telling Steve right before the show, I also am feeling less weird about my food prepping that I did during the pandemic lockdown stuff. And I'm feeling less weird. I'm feeling less weird about the fact about how much food is around here.
God, I wish you could point a camera towards your thing up there. Where like you got all your
the rice,
food
the
prep
flour,
crap over
the
it.
Great Northern beans,
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I have half-gallon mason jars with beans, and I mean, we full on go zombie apocalypse here. Like that's what I was really preparing for, was zombie apocalypse.
Right.
I mean, we're in for rice and beans for at least a
Which
month.
was more likely than nuclear war like 2 weeks ago.
It totally was. It really was. I mean, it was like, when are we going to get the zombie variant?
Yeah,
That's what I was totally waiting for. The Zombicron.
Now we got a senile little prick freaking trying to start World War III.
I got nothing. I mean, I got nothing for him. I just want to survive day to day and, be able to connect with the people I love.
Now we might be better off sending Nancy Pelosi over there.
Literally anybody.
I
mean, we went from the B team to, we thought we were sending, I don't know, not the B team, and then it was like the D team came out.
Yeah, I know.
We thought Kamala was bad. I mean, he was like, "Here, hold my beer." It was,
let me go show you how it's done.
Oh my God, so bad. And and if you're of a different opinion, it is what it is. So
yeah,
I don't know, our show.
We can all have fun with it.
We can, and
I got a ton of liberal friends, so I don't hate anybody.
I don't either. I just really don't want to have a war in my lifetime. Like not a nuclear war anyway.
No.
Yeah. And I'd like a little bit of truth. So
yeah. There's that. Yeah.
Is what it is. All right. So we wrap this thing up.
Guess we can. Yeah. Whatever you want to do.
All right.
Unless there's another question anywhere. If there's not, then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Again, if you're listening on the replay, you can catch us live Monday nights on both YouTube and Facebook on the Crate Insider page on both of those channels. And you can be here live and we answer your questions or do our best, or at least read them over the air. And if you did catch us halfway in between or something, you can see us both on YouTube, Facebook, or you can go to iTunes or any of your podcast players, look up the Racing Insiders podcast on the podcast players, and you can find us there. So thank you so much for being here. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
All right.